We're finally getting ready to put our pattern on our fabric. And before we can do that, we need to do a little bit of looking at our fabric and getting it ready. So this particular fabric is a one direction fabric, which means that if you look at this, the top of the cars are here and the bottom of the cars are here. In every single picture, the top is always that way and the bottom is always that way. So I want to make sure that when I put my pattern pieces on here, I do it so the top of my shorts is on this end, both pieces, and or going that direction, and the bottom is going that direction. Otherwise, I'm going to have my cars all upside down. You may or may not have a fabric like that. You do want to make sure that your pattern pieces always go the same direction, because like if you're doing the flannel, there's a difference in the way that the nap of the flannel flows. If you put them two different directions, that could be a problem. If it is a pattern that doesn't really have a direction either way, it doesn't matter which where you put the top or the bottom, but I want the tops going the same direction. Okay, so I have this folded so it's wrong sides out. That is what my pattern guide sheet has told me to do, is to do it wrong sides out. And you can see that here because on the little legend it shows that the wrong side of the fabric is gray, and if you look at the diagram up here, it's showing the wrong side of the fabric on the top. So this is the one that we're going to do because we have 45-inch wide fabric, so I'm going to put a circle around that. Okay? And if you notice also, it says right here that I have the fold and the lengthwise is going this way. So the fold is on that side, the selvages are going to be on this side. Okay, so the selvages are going to be on this side. And that's the way I'm going to put my pattern guide sheet sitting out so I can see it, and I make sure that I put my pieces the same direction. I'm actually going to change a little bit about where I put my pockets, but that's just me. But the two big pieces have to be in the same space. And I'm going to put an F on this one so we know that the front goes towards the right, and I'm going to put a B on this one so we know that as I'm sitting next to the selvage, my back is going to be to my left. Okay, and I'm just going to put that over here so I can get my fabric pinned together. Now you don't have to have a ton of pins to do this particular step, but you do want to put a few pins in because if you start pinning and you get interrupted and you have to put your things away, it would be a really good idea if your edge is pinned. You don't have to redo that each time. So I'm basically going to take my two selvages and I want them to be stacked right on top of one another all the way down the side, and this fabric is behaving really well. Sometimes fabric doesn't. I am not worried about the two ends matching exactly. I want the selvages to be together. And I'm going to kind of hold it up and shake it a little bit, and then I'm going to lay it down with the selvage towards me. And one of the things I'm going to look for before I do anything else is I'm going to look at the fold, and I want to make sure that it's a nice fold. I'm not going to smush it down, I don't need to do that, but I want to make sure that there aren't any kind of diagonal lines coming off of that, because if your fabric is twisted at all, you're going to see that kind of diagonal folding along there. But mine's okay, so I'm going to just leave it right there. And I'm going to start by pinning my the center. I'm going to, along the selvage side, I'm going to pin the middle. And I always pin from the middle to the edges. That way I don't shift my fabric as I go. And I'm just doing a little bit of fussing here. Make sure they're right on top of each other. Now when I pin, because in FACS class we have old tables and it doesn't really hurt if we scratch them. Don't ever do this on Mom's good dining room table. She would probably have a fit. Anyway, I take my pin in my dominant hand and I take my non-dominant hand and I put it ahead of where I want the pin to be. I take the pin, I push down against the table, and then I press with my non-dominant hand so I get a little hill, and then I push through without jabbing my finger. Okay, I'm going to do that again. So these can be about a couple of hand widths apart, so about like that apart. I don't need a ton, but I do want to make sure that my edges are stacked right on top of each other. So pins in my dominant hand, my non-dominant hand's ahead of me, holding the fabric flat. I'm going to push down through both layers against the table. I'm not lifting this up in the air. You know, I'm not pinning up in the air. I'm pinning against the table. And then I'm going to push through. And then I'm going to just put a couple more down here. I think I'm probably out of the range of the camera, but that's okay. You probably are going to have maybe about 10 pins along this edge. That's not an exact number. That's just a kind of sort of number. All right. And then I'm going to finish pinning up this other side. I want to make sure that those things are stacked and everything is smooth. And again, from the center out, I'm not coming up here and going back that way because I could end up with a bubble. And I just want a couple of hand widths apart. I'm just kind of doing that to put my next pin. And then maybe one more up here. So how many did I guess? 10? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. On a shorter fabric, I have 8. You might have 10, you might have 15, depending on how long your fabric is.